Welcome. So, listen, callers, and to the super chatters, I have a guest, and I will be getting to your calls here in a minute. I have with me someone who finally, in my opinion, finally showed real love to the blacks after 70 years. Somebody really, you know what? They showed love to the blacks. They were honest with them because they care. And most people are afraid to tell the truth to the blacks to show them love. Robert Davi is an award winning actor, screenwriter, director, producer, and jazz vocalist. His new song, The House I Live In, is available now on music streaming platforms. I support by following him on Robert Davi on Instagram and Robert John Davi on X. Robert, welcome to the show. Thank you for coming on.
Thank you for having me, Pastor. I'm a fan of yours and watched you for years, and I'm honored to be on your show. And I appreciate it, especially since the firestorm my ex tweet has considerably caused.
What a mess! You finally showed love, and some of the people who hate love, who hate the truth, are going after you. It does. I understand good versus evil, so I understand it. How do you feel about what do you? Well, first, let me play what you said for those who have not seen it yet. Here is Robert Darby's recent comment on Kendrick Lamar Super Bowl halftime show. Watch this.
Dear fellow Americans, just my quick little rant on this halftime nonsense. I mean, come on, stop with the ghetto crap. I'm done with the ghetto. I've had it up to here with ghetto. I know they want to say rap is this and rap is the streets and rap is the current and rap is the that. Look at jazz, black and jazz blues artists. Give me the Count Basie band. Give me Duke Ellington's band. Give me the history. Give me jazz. You want to go black? Go art. Enough with the garbage. Enough with bringing these kids down into the garbage. Like that's the cool thing to do and this and that. No, those gentlemen that created an art form, a gorgeous art form, those jazz artists. Let's propagate that in America. Enough with this bull. Who in the NFL hired this act? And Sam Jackson monkeying around. I mean, I'm sorry. It just repulsed me.
Amazing. That's love, folks. If you want to know what love is, that's it. What really just drove you to the point that you wanted to speak out about it in such a public way, Robert?
Well, I grew up as a kid in the 1950s. And Italian home, immigrant family from Sicily and Naples. And I know very strongly the prejudice that the Italian-American community had in the beginning and the turn of the 19th century. And I understood the struggle, the civil rights struggle. I lived through that. There was never my family, we never had there was no racist bone in my body, and I'm being called a racist because of my comment.
Yeah.
And to qualify some of that, when I saw the halftime show, I says, here we are, the biggest platform in the world. We could bring unity. We're in New Orleans. And I didn't know Kendrick Lamar. Even my son knew him. My son, after my rant, said, Dad, this guy, and he sent me some of, he says, listen to this, Dad, and listen to that. And my younger daughter, they knew him. I did not know Kendrick Lamar. I could not understand any of the lyric.
Right, me either.
And all I saw was Sam Jackson saying some stuff like this, and and then I saw on the stage there was no representation of America.
Right.
There was I don't want to say that because now I'll get killed on that.
But you were right about that.
There was no unifying message for me.
Yeah.
Now, since then, I have to say, Pastor, that many people have reached out to me, some with hatred and some I've responded to, and some have understood as a teachable moment for myself and for them. And I've communicated with some of them. One gentleman called Radio Blitz, who's very heavy into rap. We had an hour and a half conversation about the rap world and the importance of it for them. But I grew up, as I said, in the 50s. I grew up born in Astoria, Queens, and you grew up on Long Island, Dix Hills. 2 miles from my house, John Coltrane lived. John Coltrane, a
Amazing.
giant.
Yeah.
And my school, it was Candlewood Junior High School, but they wanted us to learn instruments, learn a musical instrument. And I had this conversation with Quincy Jones. Why isn't jazz one of the greatest art forms not taught in schools? Because it gives a history in a positive way, because those artists went through struggle, but they spoke through their instruments. And you could be black and white, and you might be saying whatever you want to say, but yet there is the beauty of communication. And here I unmistakably looked at it as divisive, and that was my opinion.
When you mentioned that, I saw it. It reminded me of the good old days of when boys were boys and men were men, and performers, jazz and soul music. It was so much classier than what's happening today, and the people would dress for it. They would train themselves to perform with class, and it didn't matter whether they were on Ed Sullivan's show or they were performing in New York. It was always classy, and anyone that went to see it or they saw it on TV, they would appreciate it because it wasn't about being black or white. It was about being your best. It was about class, and blacks have lost that class over the last 70 years because they have lost control of their own lives, and they listen to these so-called black leaders and all this other mess going on, that they have lost the class in life. Even the Samuel L. Jackson, it looked like he's too old for that he would have participated in that mess along with the younger people. It looked like he would have said, no, let's do it in a better way. This is for the world to see. It's about uniting with America. But even he was out of order on that. And I'm like, at what age do you grow up? You know what I mean?
Yeah, it was quite, I used to have a friend of mine, Willie Bobo, one of the greatest timbali players with Santa Margarita and all those great jazz musician. And he used to come to my house when I lived in California in Marina del Rey at 2:00 in the morning, and I'd cook Italian, he'd cook soul food.
Nice.
And he used to say, is there a message in the ravioli? And I used to say, is there a message in the collard greens? So when I said, is there a message in the collard greens in my tweet, that was taken out of context and not understood. And what you say is absolutely right. Those Count Basie.
Yeah.
Count Basie, who grew up in Queens, another giant where I was born in Queens. These are the guys I looked up to that brought me into jazz, along with Frank Sinatra, who was the first artist to fight against anti-Semitism and racial bigotry. And they wanted to be dressed immaculately.
Yep.
And they said, if you look the best, you're going to play the best. And that's what my message was. Let's lift up all, because even in the white community, kids have been, dragged down in whatever way they want. It's not just a black thing.
Right.
It's a white thing. So I say, lift it up. And how come there's never been a film about one of the greatest American composers, Duke Ellington? Why? If I was black, Pastor, I would be doing a film developing about Duke Ellington and the struggle and the history of jazz and that whole communication. Why? Why are we not uplifting these artists? And they say, well, it's passé and it's niche. No, it's not niche.
No, it's not. The reason they don't do it because they don't want, when you are angry and when you feel like a victim, when you refuse to be your best in life, the people who are encouraging that, they want you down and out so they can use you for personal gain, for money, for power, for votes, or whatever, right? And so over the last 70 years, I'm sure you already know this, I'm saying it for people who might not realize it, over the last 70 years, they have the so-called black leadership, the media, they have only used blacks for votes and things like that. They have never tried to encourage them. We all know that rap music and crap music, and it has done nothing but brought the black society, quote unquote, down over the years. It has not made them better. And they use excuses like, oh, well, that's the black situation, or that's how black people live. That's not an excuse to play crap music. Where's the real talent that there used to be in Black America? Black America used to have real talent in the good old days.
Yes. I mean, again, you couldn't find better musicians.
Right.
You couldn't find, but now having dialogue with some, like I told you, my friend Radio Blitz, who became a friend, and a couple of other people's,
Right.
Mike Harvey, that reached out to me, not with hatred, with communication, because communication is good. And I think it was an important dialogue to have in the country. I'd like jazz to be taught in our high schools, in the elementary schools, like when I grew up. Now, they explained to me the genesis, and I understood it, the genesis of jazz coming from the streets, and it didn't need money, it didn't need music. These kids could just, with what they had, create something. And then I go back to, but back in the jazz days, they didn't have either.
Right.
You know, I remember, I think it was Count Basie. His father was more important for Count Basie to learn piano than anything else. And, you know, I say, again, it's a, and I didn't know Kendrick Lamar won a Pulitzer Prize, but so did a guy named Walter Duranty won a Pulitzer Prize for the New York Times, you know, and, but it just is, it was done out of concern, because I went into those communities with Quincy Jones because of John Hope Bryant when he had Operation Hope in Los Angeles. And Pastor, Operation Hope was not just civil rights, but silver rights. And we would go into the inner cities and talk to kids in classes, telling them the importance of understanding math and how it's silver rights, how by bettering yourself and understanding yourself through education, you can lift yourself up. I did that as a kid, in Los Angeles for a couple of years with John Hope Bryant. And so I understood. I don't understand because, you know, I don't want to. I got so many comments saying you don't understand where we come from or what our struggle was. I only know it from books. I know it from experience watching it on the thing. And I understand there's been, and you can go all over the world and you could say there's grievances all over the world.
Right.
When do we stop? When do we stop with the grievance?
Yeah, absolutely, man. You know, whenever the blacks say, oh, you don't understand, I'm like, don't understand what? Whenever there was a time when we all didn't have to work hard for what we wanted in life, when did we not have to make sacrifices for what we wanted? When did that happen? I mean, even I grew up on a plantation down in Alabama under the Jim Crow law. I remember the colors on this side, the white people on this side, right? But not one time do I ever remember anyone telling us we need to blame the white folks. We can't make it. The white man is trying to hold us back. And black people in those days, they respect themselves, they respect others. We work hard, we treated people the way we would like to be treated. We did our best in the all-black school. Those who wanted to go to college, they went to college. Those who didn't, they found a job. There's no such thing as you don't understand my struggle. That's another made-up lie to cause blacks to accept the idea of being victims. It's another made-up lie. It's not true, man, at all. All races, no matter who you are and where you are, if you want to, whatever you want out of life, you got to work for it. You got to carry yourself in a certain way. You got to pull yourself up and get what you want in life. I wouldn't accept that idea, you don't understand my struggle. That's another made-up lie.
Yeah, if we continue to victimize, and I'm very sympathetic to everyone's struggle. You know, look, in 1886, there were more lynchings in one day of Italians, Sicilians in New Orleans than anywhere else.
Nice.
That was 1886, just one day.
Yeah.
I'm not saying overall.
Right.
And in 1906, the New York Times called the Italian, very prejudiced statement, racist statement against the Italian Sicilian population, and so people have been struggling. My dad worked 3 jobs, as many people did. I saw him go from one job, come home, eat, left for the next job, and then worked on the weekend in the church
Yes.
and did whatever he could to give us a good education and that work ethic.
That's
I had
right.
a lemonade stand at 12 years old, on Deer Park Avenue. I'm sure, anyway, it's everyone has a struggle, but I don't like the victim mentality.
Me
I
either. I'm
tell my
sick of
kids
it.
that.
Me
Yeah.
too. I don't like it at all. I had to, when I was growing up, have you ever picked cotton, Robert?
No, I have not.
You have not lived until you pick cotton. I would have to come home from school, take off my school clothes, go right to the cotton field, or go and break the soil to plant new crop. And in the morning before I went to school, I would have to go out to the barns, get the cows, bring them in, milk the cows, go back home and get ready to catch the school bus at 7 p.m. 7 a.m. I don't want to hear this thing. I've been struggling. But what I want to ask, when those guys,
That's
whoever
amazing.
call you about what you said, and did you accept what they said about rap music or whatever?
I understood. I didn't necessarily accept it. I understood it, and I'm sure there was some, because what they were saying was that Lamar, Kendall Lamar, was not a street. There's different, from what I've understood now. You had the Bronx, you had the Compton, you had the other areas, you had different things, and I am open to understanding and to have dialogue, even if I disagree. And that was the thing, because how do we move anyone forward? I have to say, and the guys devoted their lives to rap, some of them. So that's why I'm not going to say, hey, but
But
I
why
still
would that be? Why would that be an excuse to put that crap on TV at that particular time? And why that's not an excuse for whatever his name, Lamar and Samuel L. Jackson and others to put that crap on at that
that's
time.
what
Do the crap later.
Yeah, well, it was amazing to me that they would use that platform.
Yeah.
But and I've gotten copious amounts from the Black community, really, from a lot of women too, that are upset of what I said, because they say you missed the point. Because when Samuel Jackson he said a statement, I guess, as Uncle Sam, that they're not going to get it. You know what I mean? And then I said, but what about the lyric about they not like us?
Right.
That's right in our face. Well, they said, well, is he referring to Drake and pedophilia? I says, listen, nobody could hear the lyric. All I heard was they not like us, and every black person creating the flag and then splitting the flag up, and the optics of that. And they're saying, well, there's so much behind this. There's a video game behind it, and there's so much symbolism. Well, my little mind doesn't get it. My
Mine's
mind
either.
gets my little mind, and maybe it's my age, but my little mind gets division. And I don't want division in this country anymore. I'm sick of it. And
Me too.
that's what my thing was, Pastor.
And it was division. You're absolutely right about that. It was implying that white people are not like us, blacks. They were implying that. That's what Jackson was saying, in my opinion, and that's what they were trying to say. It's time out for that. It really just time out for that. And I love the fact that you spoke up about it. You showed love when you made that video and made those statements. We need
It came out of
more.
love.
Yeah. No, it was a
It came out of
pair.
love, because the pandering I'm sick of the pandering as well, Pastor.
Absolutely. And
Afraid.
you can call me Jesse. What the?
Okay, Jesse.
That was love. And I wanted you to know I really, really appreciate the fact that somebody non-black, which blacks don't hear a lot, that you finally showed love to the blacks by being honest with them in such a big way.
I appreciate you. Thank you.
I want to know, before we run here, what's wrong with the blacks that they won't overcome anger? At what point we have given them everything they have asked for? We gave them the civil rights movement, which was the worst thing other than abortion that ever happened to the blacks. The civil rights movement. It should have never happened. Blacks have never returned to normalcy since the civil rights movement. We've given them reparations, affirmative action, reparation, DEI. We let them into white schools and they don't have to qualify. We give them welfare. We gave them to white women. What's wrong with them that they won't drop the anger and take responsibility for their own lives?
I think you have a political class that does it on purpose. And it starts with education and it starts with a certain drumbeat. Look, there were wounds. Of course, there were wounds, but the wounds were healing. And I've seen over the last several decades razor blades to those wounds to make them deeper and make them open up again and ooze and bleed. And that was unfortunate because we were all healing as a nation and as a people together.
Yeah.
And I have to say, sometimes I see, and I get a lot of love. I've gotten a lot of love from the Black community as an actor. Much respect. Now, as this thing is taken off.
Where is the love?
It's different. But I think it has to do with a political class and a strategy, a strategic political message, because Marxism, as we know, infiltrated America from the 1920s and 1930s, the 1940s. They infiltrated.
Yeah,
I've done a lot of research on this.
Yeah.
And race was the initial hot button topic that to be able to split us apart, because then you have people with grievance. And look, there's grievance. And I understand, somebody told me, and I've heard about that, the Black Wall Street thing. I don't know all the history of that issue. And I understand the incarceration of different things that happened wrongly. But as we were moving forward, and again, when I was a kid and I watched on TV the funeral of Martin Luther King, and I saw two mules pulling a rickety carpet, a rickety wagon, and in that was a pine box. And in that pine box was the totality of the human struggle. And behind that box and those mules were a sea of people, all colors and races, walking with it. We're going to either pull it apart or we're going to pull it together. And recently you see there's a certain kind of, I don't think people are revering Martin Luther King as they should have, as they continue to have. He seems to, I don't know if you feel the same thing, that there's been criticism against him sometimes.
Yeah, when I saw the box, well, at the time I was young, but when I reflect on the mules pulling the box, I realized they are taking a socialist to his grave. Martin Luther King Jr. was one of the worst things that ever happened to the blacks. Blacks were not socialists until they started listening to Martin Luther King and Jesse Jackson and all those people. They took control of the blacks and became their leaders by telling the blacks what they needed and who was holding them back, and they can't make it. And they set themselves up as being leaders of the blacks. And blacks did not understand that Martin Luther King Jr. and those people were socialists. And they have been using the blacks ever since for their own personal gain. Black people were doing just fine before the Civil Rights Movement.
Interesting. Martin Luther King was initially very, very supportive of Nixon. They were friends.
He used to be a Republican.
Yes. Now, there was something that happened.
Yes.
I heard a story one time that JFK was driving in D.C., and I forget who was in the car with him. May have been Pierre Salinger or someone like that. And they saw someone in the street, and they got him in the car, and they convinced JFK to do something that then switched the allegiance of Martin Luther King to Kennedy.
Oh.
Yeah, there's a story there. Have your research team try to find that.
Yeah.
It was very riveting. Yeah, I forget what that was, but it was. I didn't know he was a socialist.
He was a total socialist, a preaching socialist. He never meant. Maybe in the beginning when he first started out, he He never meant for black people to be free. He wanted them to be enslaved all the way up to today. And that's why even now you have all these black women and liberal black men in government. All they ever cry is racism.
Yeah,
You trying to hold me back because you're racist. What in the world are they crying racist? They are in government now. What else do you want? When will you be free? When will you stop using that word? They use it to gain power and wealth. It's not real. It's for personal gain.
Yeah, we've seen that, and it's frustrating because it doesn't have to be.
Not at all.
It
Robert,
shouldn't be.
let me take a quick break. I have two more questions for you. And then
Absolutely.
all right, hold on. 888-775-3773. 888-77-JESSE. Back in a moment. Okay, folks, welcome back. 888-775-3773. 888-77-JESSE. I'm talking to Robert Davi. He's an award-winning actor, screenwriter, director, producer, and jazz vocalist. Brand new song. I want you guys to check it out. The House I Live In is available on music streaming platforms. So go to Robert Davi on Instagram and Robert John Davi on X. Robert, when will the blacks stop being angry? Do you think that's ever going to happen where they drop the anger and just live and treat everybody the way they would like to be treated? Will they ever come back to that?
There's many that aren't, but many that are. And I think until there is a spiritual mindset, Al Sharpton, Maxine Waters, these Hakeem Jeffries, the black leadership, until they have a spiritual shift and approach this moment with love and not with divisiveness. They can have a point of view. I understand that. But the point of view becomes couched in a revolutionary style of attack. Trump, who is a unique political figure.
The Great White Hope
is amazing.
Amazing.
think and this guy here, they threw everything at Donald Trump.
Yes.
Everything.
Yeah.
And he will go anywhere, he'll talk to anyone, and he doesn't hold that, he might have his thoughts on stuff. Absolutely.
Right.
But you don't see hatred coming from them.
Right.
I never see in his speeches hatred. I see a reality. I see something that he's disdaining, a certain kind of way the country has gone and the government has gone in our country. And I've noticed, going back to the anger, I was at a place, a restaurant, and I kibitz with people, and people recognize me, and I'm very warm and open. And there was a black family, and some of the other families were there. Hey, can we have a bit? Blah, blah, blah. And there was a little kid, and I was there with my family, my little 5-year-old and my 18-year-old, and my wife. And I was walking by to go to the restroom, and I saw the little kid with his pizza. I said, is that pizza delicious? Can I have a taste? Just as a friendly.
Right.
And the father says, don't start that shit here.
Whoa.
It was a hostile thing toward me. And I don't know if he knew who I was or not, but it was very, very strange because, it was around, the mother was there, you know what I mean?
Yes.
But I've noticed in some instances, there is hostilities. And I'm sure the black community has felt it from white people. There has been hostilities. And now it seems to be a tit for tat. I don't know. I don't know if it's tit for tat.
What?
It's something that continues, like you say, let's stop the racism.
Yes.
Let's stop the hatred.
White people are becoming or have become ticked at the blacks because they're sick of them. They're tired of the blacks begging and blaming, and they've done everything the blacks wanted over the last 70 years or so. At what point will you say, okay, it's enough? I appreciate you giving it to me, working with me, whether it's right or wrong, but thank you. White people tick with the blacks because they're sick of them. Every time they disagree, they cry racism. Every time you give the blacks a job, and if the blacks don't show up or don't work as hard or do whatever, and the boss have to let them go, they cry racism and try to sue them. Who want to put up with that, Robert?
I know, and a lot of times there's attitudes.
Yes.
There is attitude. There is attitude, and that's engendered. I don't blame the black people. I blame the leadership. And we've been talking to the leadership for years. I've been mentioning things that they should a change in style. You know, it's like reparations. Okay, that's a hot topic. My my family was in Sicily and Naples. We weren't around during slavery, so
Right.
reparations for something that happened, and you know, and I understand there's different injustices. I recently heard. I don't know if this is true, Jesse, but the what is it? 100 acres and a mule, or 40 acres and a mule?
They still waiting for it, Robert, and we've given it to them over and over again.
But what somebody told me, and I don't know if this is true, that if a family member got those 40 acres or whatever it was, and someone wanted to sell their little portion, there was a law that said if you sold that portion, you'd lose all of it. Now, I don't know if that's true or
I've
not.
never heard anything like that either.
Okay, so I don't know if it's true. They should research it, because that's another thing that is somebody putting out grievances and creating
Yeah.
a narrative to make us all go, you know. Now I knew it,
They are
you
doing that,
know.
Robert.
Yeah,
They are doing
it's
that. I
yeah,
remember you mentioned the Wall Street story about Black Wall Street. I
yes.
want you, when you get a chance, I want you to check out Uncle Tom too. And Uncle Tom, and it lays it all out about the
Is that
civil
Larry
rights movement.
Elders?
Yeah, with Larry,
Okay, he's
absolutely.
in a friend. Yeah,
Yes.
okay. I haven't seen it.
Check it out. It's going to lay it all out. What you don't know, and what they don't tell black people or anyone, that Black Wall Street incident happened because some black people and some white people had a fight. They started fighting with each other about something nonsense, right? And it just broke out into a big fight. But what happened when the riots in itself was over, Black Wall Street was rebuilt. The black people didn't sit around and complain and, oh, poor me, I need reparations now. They rebuilt Black Wall Street and it
Mm,
boomed for a long time. You don't hear that part because they want you to think for no reason white people just went in there and destroyed Black Wall Street because they want to keep the black man down. It's not true. They
mm.
leave those parts out because they want to manipulate the mind.
That's what's happening then. Yeah,
Absolutely. And another
it's
thing you might not be aware of, and you may, before the civil rights movement, black people didn't have leaders. We had our fathers and mothers, we had our grandparents, and we didn't have to taught to be civil. We were taught that by examples from our parents and at school and places like that. We didn't need someone to come in and give us a talk telling how to act. That all changed with the civil rights movement
mm,
when they became the leader of the people and told them how to think, who to love, who not to love, how to
mm.
treat others. And black people just lost self control because they turned it over to someone else. And that's what Maxine Waters and others, Al Sharpton, they don't want to let go of that power, so called power. They don't want racism to disappear. How would they use the blacks if they didn't make them believe that racism existed? It's a lie, but it's for control, Robert.
Hmm. You know, there was the. It's interesting on the that Uncle Tom thing. There's uh, what was the film? There was another film that I was going to reference. I just darn. I had a thought and I lost it. It was an important thought. Hopefully, I'll get it back. Um, but the engendered, uh, how would you say, the manipulation,
Yes.
the continued manipulation that continues on and on and on and on,
Yep.
and not being able to stop that and see that. Thomas Sowell, I've asked many of the people that have criticized me, have you read Thomas Sowell?
Right.
Nobody had.
Right.
And they did an experiment, he said, in Germany, where you had white uh, military guys and black military guys, and they married German women, and they lived in Germany. And the children, the white children and the black children, or black white children, had no difference in education, no difference in their intelligence. But in America, there's a different thing that happens. That was an interesting study that he mentioned in one of his speeches, one of his talks.
Amazing.
Yeah, isn't that
It
interesting?
is very interesting. And you, with Thomas Sowell and others, the black, so-called black leadership, they don't want the blacks to know about those guys. They don't want them to know about Walter Williams. They don't want them to know about Clarence Thomas, Justice Clarence Thomas,
Yes.
or Booker T. Washington, because those men are independent, conservative men, and they want the blacks to be free and get along as much as possible with anyone. Stop blaming. But the media and the so-called black leadership have deliberately kept those men
They
away from.
denigrate them. They
Yes,
denigrate them and call them racist and anti this and
and
anti
Uncle
that.
Tom and all
I'm
that.
sure you've been the subject of a lot of unjust
Oh,
treatment.
I've been called every name in the book and then some.
Yeah.
Names I've never heard, but it doesn't bother me at all. I never think about what others think about me. It doesn't even cross my mind.
That's the power of having the Lord inside, right?
It doesn't even cross my mind. I can care less because I understand. I do want to ask, because of time, are you a Christian?
Catholic.
Catholic. And do you have perfect peace?
Perfect peace?
Yes.
Perfect peace. I have, look, let me put it this way. My parents died young, 55 and 56 years old.
Amazing.
I had a 20-year-old sister who was murdered by her ex-boyfriend. My grandfather was murdered by a guy in Astoria, Queens. My ex had a bad heroin problem. A couple of my kids had some issues. I have 8 all told.
Nice.
The rest are good, yes. And I have prayer and my connection to God. When I was 16, 15, I was cured by a stigmatist, Padre Pio from San Giovanni Rotondo in Foggia, Italy. He was a Franciscan priest monk, a Capuchin monk. And it's a long story where the rosaries that were blessed by him were given to me, and he prayed for me. And the doctor said, if I knew your son would be in this shape, I was in the hospital a week ago, I'd say only a miracle to my mother Mary. Grew up in a very religious household. And am I at peace? I'm a human being, so I can get derailed at times. But basically, I believe through prayer and through my faith, I have peace.
And do you have perfect peace?
Perfect peace is, I don't know.
What?
I've never been asked that question. Perfect peace. I think I like a little bit of turmoil.
Oh,
Only
you
creatively.
like a little hell in your life?
No, I don't want any hell.
And so, do you want perfect peace?
Of course.
And so, you do want it, and if you knew that it was possible to have it, would you accept it?
Of course, accepting peace. Absolutely.
Want me to tell you? May I tell you how to have perfect peace? But first, let me ask before I say this. When these people call you racist for loving the blacks and telling them the truth recently, when they call you racist, when you think about that, and how do you feel about the name calling?
Well, first off, I know that I'm not to my
Right.
bones, because, and I don't even want to tell them, my daughter dated black boys. My son, I never even conceived. Oh, you can't. No, that's not in my lexicon.
on.
We
Nice.
had them at my house. When I was growing up, my dad, there was I don't think of race. I never thought of race. And now they make you think of race. Now
Right.
this current world makes you go, my God,
Yeah.
you know?
What a mess. And so, if I told you how to have perfect peace, you think you would accept it?
I would hope to.
Drop your anger.
You're right.
Drop the anger.
Yeah, absolutely.
Why don't you, and why haven't you dropped your anger? Why are you holding on to that?
Part of it is, I guess, an Italian fun thing. I don't know. They said that, I played, one of the brothers who responded to my rap thing about the ghetto did a whole thing about, well, you played these mafia figures, these Italian mafia figures about the ghetto, and and I says, and I understood that. I understood that aspect I says, but I never played. I turned down The Sopranos because it was not. I played historical mob figures, and I tried
Yeah.
to, and it was part of the Italian culture. I understood that. I mean, it was part of what was the lexicon of the Italian culture, and I looked like I look. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah.
So, but I played an Orthodox Jew. I played a Palestinian. I played. The only thing I've never played is a black man because
What the? If you played a black man, they would really be going after you. They'll call you racist. They'll call you
oh yeah,
everything. But Robert, when you drop your anger,
I will absolutely. I've been looking at that. Yes.
and do you know how to drop it? You could
Tell
be
me.
free right now.
All right, I'm here.
You got to forgive your mother. You became like what you hate when you were a little kid and you didn't know it. She turned you away from your father, and she made you have false sympathy for her by playing victim when she was not a victim, and you identified with her, and the anger you have came from resenting her. Forgive her. She did her best. Her mother screwed her up. And when you apologize for resenting her, God will forgive you and give you perfect peace.
Hmm. Something to deeply think about.
And
Yeah.
you can have perfect, don't let anyone tell you that you cannot have perfect peace on earth. Christ came that we may have peace and perfect
Yes.
peace, but you got to drop the anger because the anger separates you from God. Anyone that has anger would never know God. You're separated from Him.
You're right.
So will you forgive your mother?
Absolutely.
Yeah. And
I will.
forgive your father for not protecting you from her. He married his mama, so he didn't know how to deal with you. He loved you. He just didn't know how to deal with your mother.
Well, my dad was a guy that it was funny that you say that dynamic because as a kid, my dad was a World War II veteran. His ship was torpedoed. He probably had PTSD.
Yeah.
And as a kid, I was a loudmouth kid. I was a kid. And he used to, you know, he used to, and I never for 1 second didn't think they loved me, nor did I feel victimized. But he would punch me.
Yeah.
I would get beatings. I would get an ass whipping, as they say. And I never once resented it or anything like
Me
that.
either. Yeah.
Yeah. And one time he said, "You're the whipping boy," because if I was doing something, he would never hit my mother, but he would, she would egg him on, and then
Yeah.
I would get the punishment of that.
Yeah.
Uh,
Well,
but
one of the reasons is he still living?
no, they died at 55 and 56 years
Oh
old.
yeah, you mentioned that. One of the
They died.
reasons that he would whoop you because you had identified with your mother, and so dealing with you was like dealing with his wife, your mother, right? And because
Yes.
you had become one with her, so you turned against him because you identified with your mother, not understanding that she was against your father, not for him.
hmm there's very interesting psychic truth to that in
What
ways.
what a
It's
mess, huh?
yeah. That's funny. Look at you. You're going right in there like a surgeon.
And that's what's wrong with the blacks, Robert. It's not about race. It's not about racism. It's not about the white man or the Jewish man or anyone. It's about the hatred that they have for their mothers. They have and their grandmothers. All human beings, not just blacks, but every human being on earth. They got to forgive their mothers who turn them away from their fathers because when you turn away from your earthly father, you're turned away from God. You can't
Mm,
you can't hate the son and expect to get to the father. And your earthly father is the son of God, whether he obeyed her or not. And the
mhm.
mothers hate the fathers and they turn the children away and they make you identify with them, and that's where the problem is. So forgive your mother. Hey mother, now that she's dead, just realize as you can't help yourself with the anger thing, she couldn't help herself. She did the best she could. Forgive
Yes.
her, and God will forgive you and make you free. I'm telling you.
Yeah, no, I see that. I see the dynamic from a far lens, because she was a daughter, the only daughter in an Italian family of six men,
Wow.
six brothers.
Yeah.
And she was always put last and she had a lot of ability, but she was always put last because it was about the boys at that time of the generation, of
Right.
course.
Yeah.
So I can see a lot of that falls into place.
Well, now that you can see it, it's God who is allowing you to see it. And that's what it means to repent, to admit that you're angry. Anger is hatred, right? And when you can admit in your heart that you're angry and that you're wrong for being angry, God will forgive you. Because then you stop judging. You won't judge your mother. You won't judge your father. You won't judge yourself. You'll speak up, but you will not judge. So you got to forgive, Robert.
I will. With your help. Thank you.
Thank you so much for coming on, man. It's
God bless you.
amazing meeting you in person and talking
And
to
you
you.
too. And you too. I hope we do get together sometime
I do
and share a
too.
meal.
I do
I'd love
too.
to.
Let me know. Tell the folks how to get your books, how to get your everything, your songs and everything.
Maybe just go to Amazon and you can get films I directed called one called The Dukes. Doo-wop, me and Chaz Palminteri. I directed and wrote that. It's called The Dukes. You can find that somewhere on iTunes or Amazon. And then I've got, my album, Davi Sings Sinatra. Also, they can find, right now, I put it on X for free, the film I directed, My Son Hunter, about Hunter Biden and Joe Biden. I directed, I don't know if you know that.
I know I heard about the movie, but I didn't know you directed that.
I directed it when everyone said there was no laptop, and I got a lot of hate from because they said what a lie this movie is, and now it's all proven to be true. But it's like The Wolf of Wall Street. I did it. It's a satirical piece. Epoch Times said a masterpiece, and I have two films. I'm in Reagan, that's on the air right now. It's on Amazon Prime with Dennis Quaid. I play Leonid Brezhnev, leader of Soviet Union, and then I have a very important film called Bardejov, Bardejov, where I play an Orthodox Jew who saves over 300 girls from Auschwitz. True story from a 89-year-old Holocaust survivor. And it's it's an independent film, but it's on Amazon Prime and very powerful.
Amazing. What? Amazing. Thank you, Robert.
Thank you.
We'll be talking soon. Let me know how the forgiveness thing go. And
I will.
You'll see, I promise you, if you do it,
you're
going to have perfect peace.
I will. I just didn't want to cry on air.
Amazing. Thank you, man. We'll talk soon, all right?
All right, Jesse.
Thank you for showing the blacks love. It's about time somebody shows it.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, buddy.
God bless you, sir.
You too. Thank you.